Procrastination, the single biggest threat to living an extraordinary life. The action of delaying or postponing something.
In fact, according to Piers Steel, author of the Procrastination equation, about 95% of people admit to procrastinating, and I reckon the other 5% are lying. You see, it's something that virtually all of us suffer from.
When you know you have to write an assignment, but you turn on Netflix instead, and you repeatedly keep putting it off until the night before it's due. And it's only then, with the deadline looming the next day, you muster up just enough motivation to start writing.
And this was pretty much my entire life. From as young as I can remember, up until I was about 20 years old, I was the world's worst procrastinator.
Every time I needed to sit down to study, there was just 100 other things that I'd rather be doing. And if I got so far as to sit down at my desk and open up my textbooks, I usually just couldn't focus for any more than 15 minutes at a time.
However, about 7 years ago, I finally overcame my procrastination problem. I implemented a handful of strategies that systematically, every single day for about a year, chipped away at my procrastination. And I went from getting D grades at school to getting A grades, simply because I taught myself how to strategically overcome procrastination. And so those systematic strategies that I implemented had such a powerful effect on me. I'm going to go through them step by step very shortly, but first I think it's really important to understand why procrastination is so destructive. Because for me, most of my life, procrastination was a problem, but I didn't really see it as a problem. Therefore, I didn't really do anything to fix it. So as a direct result of my procrastination, I achieved pretty average grades, and that's being generous. But so what, right? The very definition of average means that most other students were getting roughly the same grades as me. So it wasn't really a problem until it was.
You see, I completed my final exams at high school, and so I applied to 5 universities. A couple of weeks later, I received a letter in the post with the decision of those 5 universities, but 4 out of 5 of them rejected me. And the university that did accept me, honestly, I just used them to fill up the 5th slot because we had to apply for at least 5. And right there, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Just an overwhelming feeling of disappointment and depression. Suddenly, I realized that my last 9 years of studying had come down to this, to rejection.
And that leads me on to my first, and in my opinion, the most powerful way to overcome procrastination. Use your failures as rocket fuel. I didn't realize this at the time, but that sinking feeling in my stomach from opening my university decision letter and the few months after that of really not knowing what to do with my life, it was all a blessing. I felt incredibly defeated, I guess, so I used that feeling to muster up enough motivation to never allow myself to fall into that situation again. I made a conscious decision to start taking massive action in my life to avoid living a life of disappointment. So that one setback, that one failure, it generated so much motivation within me that I started this very YouTube channel about 4.5 years ago. I just wanted to help as many other people in the same situation as me, and so that's when I created my first ever YouTube video titled "Don't Even Think About Procrastinating." It took me 3 weeks to edit that 3-minute video because I'd never done any kind of video editing before, and it's weird to think that if I didn't have that one setback, this YouTube channel probably wouldn't have been created. So the second strategy that I implemented to overcome my procrastination addiction was that I took concrete steps to boost my self-confidence and self-esteem. And I didn't really understand this before, but our beliefs and what we think about ourselves are a huge determining factor on how prone we are to procrastination. And Piers Steel, author of the Procrastination equation, explains it perfectly. He wrote,
"Beliefs are powerful because they form or directly affect expectancy. As you become less optimistic or less confident in your ability to achieve, your motivation also ebbs. The more uncertain you are of success, the harder it is to keep focused. So the lower your self-confidence, the lower your motivation is likely to be. Therefore, the more you'll be prone to procrastination." And that's exactly what I experienced for most of my life. I had a huge procrastination problem because I didn't believe I was capable of really achieving anything worthwhile. So what was the point? What's the point on studying for A grades if I didn't believe I was even capable of achieving them, right? It would be a waste of time, or at least that's where my mindset was at the time. Poor self-perception then becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. By expecting to fail, we make failure a certainty because we never dig in and make an intensive effort. So what I did to counteract that was I surrounded myself with greatness. The people that inspired me, the all-time greats, Warren Buffett, Will Smith, Michael Jordan, the kind of legends in their industry. I started to read their books, I started to listen to their interviews, to watch documentaries. I would consume as much content as I possibly could from the greatest people on the planet, and over the period of several months, my own self-belief started to rise gradually.
Because I thought, if those people can achieve phenomenal worldwide success, then surely I can get an A on my next exam, right? Or I can edit this short 3-minute video for YouTube, or I can start going to the gym and get a little bit healthier. And so I just started doing stuff, and I put myself out there. I did things that I wouldn't have even dreamed of just a few months earlier, but it was paying off. My grades started to increase, people began to watch my YouTube videos, I slowly became stronger and fitter, and all these successes just kept on fueling my motivation. And there was a very strong negative correlation between my motivation and procrastination. So as my motivation increased, my procrastination decreased, to the point where I could go throughout my entire day without procrastinating at all. There is one thing though that I learned very quickly, and that was that I needed to obey the law of forced efficiency. The law of forced efficiency states that there is never enough time to do everything, but there is always enough time to do the most important thing. And this is incredibly important to understand when it comes to procrastination. So one of the most powerful strategies that I've implemented this year when it comes to being productive is that instead of having a massive long daily to-do list, I just have a weekly schedule with the most important tasks, anywhere from 1 task a day to 4 tasks a day. So whatever happens that day, as long as I complete those tasks, then it's been a pretty good day. Because I think the average person today is just far too busy, where they're overwhelming themselves with tasks that just aren't that important, and the job responsibilities just keep piling up. The ideal scenario of getting caught up on your projects is just not realistic. A more achievable goal is to stay on top of your most critical tasks, because the busier you get, the more overwhelmed you become, and the easier procrastination can then creep in. Because procrastination is a very kind of slow moving enemy, and an analogy that I think really illustrates the destructive nature of procrastination is eating junk food.
So if you go to McDonald's and buy a Big Mac and fries once every month, it's probably not going to cause much damage. It's not particularly healthy, but once a month, there's no significant damage to your health. However, if you go to McDonald's once a week, every week, okay, that's when the health concerns might start to begin. But then you become truly addicted and you start eating at McDonald's 4 days a week for the duration of your lifetime. Then the health risks really start to rack up. So you're now at significant risk of obesity, of cancer, suffering heart disease, strokes, diabetes, depression, all of these illnesses that can significantly decrease the quality of your life.
In the same way, if you procrastinate every now and then it's probably not going to be a problem. But if your procrastination becomes a habitual addiction like it was with me, then you can easily find yourself incredibly unhappy. As Charlotte Lieberman wrote in the New York Times, over time, chronic procrastination has not only productivity costs, but measurably destructive effects on our mental and physical health, including chronic stress, general psychological distress, and low life satisfaction, symptoms of depression and anxiety, poor health behaviors, chronic illness, and even hypertension and cardiovascular disease. So a couple of months ago, I created a poll in the community tab section of this channel asking, what is the biggest obstacle you face as a student? And a staggering 76% of you said that procrastination was your biggest obstacle. And I can say pretty confidently that virtually every single person watching this video right now is struggling in some form or another with procrastination. So to help you out, I made 2 videos for you. The first one, how I beat procrastination the easy way, where I go through a few more strategies that I implemented to overcome procrastination that I haven't mentioned in this video. And if you're procrastinating right now by watching this, then you should check out my video called Stop Wasting Time on YouTube. So whichever video you choose, I'll see you over there.